YouTube comments from a video titled, Why Society Changed Forever After COVID. Part 2.
Jimmy Aliormany wrote,
One of my friends, who is very socially active, said something interesting to me. He said I kinda miss Discord nights. I know, just playing games with friends or just hanging out in call and talking. I didn't really know what to say, so I just explained that was just kinda something that I do with my online friends. It's just interesting to me for some reason.
That dog Carl wrote,
Quarantine is the reason I graduated from high school.
Are you even listening? We don't have time for this. 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 We don't have time for this.
The Slow wrote,
verse 58. I want deep about the person I'm talking to, not some other thing in the world. I want real you, not fake deep, because you care about whatever the current news cause is. Those are not the same thing.
Brittany 12301 wrote,
COVID changed my life forever in the worst way. Had an emergency C-section during that time, and after that caught the Delta COVID strain and ended up getting pneumonia, which triggered my autoimmune disease. Ever since then, I have never felt the same constant chronic fatigue and migraines.
At the Southern Stocking wrote,
17.23. I see quite a bit of this behavior. Less acknowledgement from strangers, and people living in a personal bubble like they see no one else around them.
Edit McKendall wrote,
COVID was the best and worst time for me. I remember in April of 2020, my boyfriend and I went to get Chick-fil-A. And the entire world was at home, and things were closed. We had no clue what we were driving into. I remember back then, I was still a selfie princess. I posted up in that car. And posed. Had a little baby rainbow reflecting on my shoulder from the windshield. And it's a word that I can't put my finger on. The feeling of taking that picture, then looking at it months down the road. That feeling of transformation. I was so naive and innocent. Those were the brightest and darkest times of my life. But it's what brought my atheism to a halt. And it took a couple months for me to think, God is real. And it took a couple months for me to think, God is real. It took me some time to get there. It took me some time to get there. It took me some time to get there. I was just seeking truth one day, and it happened. It finally clicked. And I was like, wait. No way. Wait. But it did, and I do. Now I can never go back, and I wouldn't ever want to. I still remember that day, after seeing the world closed on the way to Chick-fil-A, thinking they are going to make us do something to get our freedom back. And hopefully not in our lifetime, but one day. In other seas. Well, so the tapio faria balio, holy, du es thur canestu. In ovin spiels thu, trast thu, no, tu, sizius, visgul, sizius, visgul, sizius thu, tu, visgul, visgul. Holy, sizius thu, visgul. Koli, sizius. It'll be the mark of the beast. Maybe that sounds crazy to you, but look at what we all lived through. This is a hypothesis, but I think the mark of the beast will be us connecting with AI. Singularity. So it'll be just like COVID, but instead of vaccines, it'll be whatever connects us to AI or a computer program.
Isuni_ wrote.
I am an avid branch out from friends because I just love people. I have been putting myself back out there to meet people since so many social networks have been popping up. Since I live in a big city, I am so used to people coming up to me, but it's sad when I see people younger than me be afraid to talk or don't know how to interact. I really hope some things change in the new few years.
Edit McKendall wrote.
Cannot wait to watch this. Thank you. I feel like it's hard to find people actually talking about instead of just news reels. I know there are videos, but it's hard to find. I am also just so pleased to watch this video, especially because it's commentary and because it's very recent. God bless.
The Taking Zach Sunday wrote.
This is more a comment on the first video you commented on. I'm so sick of millennials, and I am one, and Gen Z clinging to any form of victimhood they can conjure up. Take accountability and change your life. Stop trying to excuse the person that you are through some kind of trauma, and take some self-accountability. Things are different since the pandemic, only cause you let them be. An entire generation of people commenting and critiquing the world around them instead of being involved in it and affecting it.
At my YouTube 1984 wrote.
Asking people a question is a great way to start a conversation with a stranger as well. Ask them what their favorite drink order is there, or ask about the book they're reading. People love to talk about what's going on with them. 552.
At Chelsea Downey 2374 wrote.
Yes, I highly recommend going out alone. I've done this, and it's very fun, and I don't feel like I always need people to venture out to a coffee shop or a bar. Just do it.
At Silence 83 wrote.
I loved lockdown as a 37-year-old working full-time. I got to take a break from working and spend quality time on myself and my child for the first time in my adult life. It was amazing.
At Mary Campbell 7300 wrote.
Not true. The rich and poor did not go through the pandemic the same. Remember, do as I say, not as I do. There were many elites that did not follow the rules. Just a reminder.
At Midnight Angel 1987 wrote.
I had kids at home during the pandemic, and I went from being super active in the school community. And so the pandemic was hard on me because even though I'm an introvert, it was so isolating and really hard on my mental health, especially as I was pregnant from mid-late 2020 to January 2021, and being alone in the hospital because my husband was caring for our other kids was so hard, and I felt like I so alone as my village was unavailable due to COVID. I live in California for reference, and my whole village was locked in on the COVID narrative.
At Raider Girl Chell wrote,
Personally, I didn't have fun during lockdown. I was working at a grocery market in Southern California the whole time for quarantine. It was scary because even though we lived in an okay neighborhood, we've had people that were nuts and rude. I was worried about catching something and bringing it home. I have a member of the family with respiratory issues. My shift was from 4:30 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. People did have respect for us for a week, and then they treated us like crud. Lord help you if you had no yeast, flour, or Diet Coke available.
At Louise Peterson 6683 wrote,
Honestly, not a dang thing changed for me because of lockdown. I worked in food production, which was a necessary industry, so I never experienced quarantine. I was working so much, and that paired with being an introvert who does crafts meant that my life stayed almost exactly the same for that time period. I hear people talking about the lockdown era, and I want to get it, but I really don't.
At Brioge 23 wrote,
I actually miss lockdowns. My husband and I were both told to work from home full time and everything slowed down. We loved spending our days together, and we would have this perfect routine of leaving to go to the gym for an hour during our lunch, and then around late afternoon we would take another break to take a walk outside. Those were some great times, and though other things like masks, businesses closing down, and we did almost both lose our jobs due to refusing the jab were frustrating and scary. Also, I know we were super lucky that we had this experience, as I know some states were much more strict, but I will always look back fondly on those years.
At Sydney 1574 wrote,
Something interesting to note. I found a difference in the way people behave who never had to struggle with anything before the pandemic, versus people who grew up with precursor problems. For an example, I grew up with moderate agoraphobia. I wouldn't even go into grocery stores because I was so anxious of other people. Even before COVID, I would get extremely, almost irrationally angry when someone stood too close to me in a line. I couldn't answer phone calls, talk to family members. I always put on headphones in school so I didn't have to hear the kids around me talk. I just hid in my room because I was terrified of everything. And when COVID happened when I was 18 years old, the lockdown meant absolutely nothing to me. It truly wasn't a big deal. Personally, I'm more upset about what it did to the economy and shutting businesses down. But for people who were the normal social butterflies back then, that led normal lives, for them, it was their first taste of hating humanity, whereas I already felt this way. People actually saw through the lens of somebody who was scared of life for the first time, and they got to witness such mass public hysteria be widely accepted, and it's forever changed them. And the ironic part is, after COVID, I'm extremely social now. I'm the conversation starter. I engage with strangers in public, etc. However, I find this to be the opposite case with people who had everything going for them prior to the pandemic. Normal people have become aggressive, rude, whatever you want to call it. Meanwhile, the past introverts seem to be thriving. Just my thoughts and opinions.
As CCKN3KW wrote,
This is such a great video idea. Thank you for your insight. This really helped validate my experience and feelings during and after COVID. It's nice to know I'm not alone in my feelings. You're so right about what we need to do to begin healing ourselves and the world. Start with small compliments and extending kindness to others in our day-to-day life.
as Zach Skyver wrote,
527, I love doing things on my own, and it blows my mind how many people will tell me it's so weird. You learn so much about yourself and you become so independent. It's awesome.
At Carmichael 9601 wrote,
It was an interesting time for sure. I do feel like there was a giant shift deep into our core. I sat around and binge watched a show on Netflix for a while, ordering Domino's delivery and just taking my weekly checks. It was comfortable. Then in the summer of 2020, I finally got myself an Amazon delivery driver job. And in that job, I felt free and alive like I've never felt before. It was a fun time for me for sure.
At Paul Black 9878 wrote,
Mislead. That hit home for me. I didn't follow politics very closely, but once I saw what local politicians here in Maryland, national politicians, the teachers during virtual learning, and especially the media, were all doing, it was an eye-opening experience. To this day, some people in my state are still wearing masks alone in cars or walking around by themselves outside. The propaganda still runs deep, and every interest group you can think of seized on the moment to push an agenda. Wild time, and still feeling the consequences.
At Maybe Angela wrote,
I feel like especially for those of us that lost our parents, siblings, etc., the pandemic hits different. Even with the way people talk about those who died. Like people invalidate my mom's death because she was a nurse for 44 years she was close to retirement. She was old, of course, she was gonna die yeah, she survived cancer. She had a pre-existing condition. Of course she would die, but they fail to realize how horrible that makes me feel. She was still my mom. I still miss her. And it just hurts different if not for this BS pandemic that we now know was not from a damn bat. She'd still be here with me.
Sparky wrote,
Working as an electrician was great during that less traffic. I did not change my life at all, never had the virus. 90% of us were just mad we didn't get the stimulus from the government, but we all kept the lights on for everybody else.
At Lulu 207 wrote,
211 This why I deleted TikTok. Add up I genuinely believe it causes mental illness, social anxiety, and just straight up low IQ thinking. Because why was so many people fine before COVID and now everyone has depression or schizophrenia or something? The link is TikTok.
Toons Forabust wrote,
I think that's the highest contributor to the split. Some people chose to grow, and it broke down the foundations for others. And now that everyone's back in the wild, there's a weird imbalance and more division. Even though everyone's was stuck in the same boat, there were still polarizing arguments over how everything happened. People became accustomed to and protective of their bubbles. There has been a definite impact on how we interact with others as we try to integrate the old with the new.
At Carl Milligan 2486 wrote,
The world is worse. Killed what little work ethic there was, especially the younger folks. I enjoyed the pandemic a little, just because there wasn't a mob of people everywhere. Yes, I'm an introvert. 53 and love non-crowded places. Too much energy of the bad kind emo. Have a good day to everyone, and move on about the day.
At Jessis 352 wrote,
Yeah, I can't stop hating working anymore. No matter what I do, I just hate it. I've had in-person jobs and remote jobs. I was fine before COVID.
At Heathers 8826 wrote,
Nothing in this video resonated with me. I homeschooled my kids, so our schedule stayed the same. My husband works remotely, so nothing for him changed. Several years afterwards, everybody in our city is back to normal, hanging out in coffee shops, working in public gardens, which is what I do, and having farmer and art markets. So, yeah, life seems back to normal here in the Midwest.
At Dance Dystopian 8546 wrote,
I try to compliment strangers, and this one friend I go out with is annoyed every time I do it. She says, "Are you here with me or them? Am I your friend or are they?" Like, it really doesn't hurt to give someone a compliment and say hi to people. It also doesn't hurt to get to know people and expand your friend group.
At Caddysacket 2321 wrote,
Literally go out and do shit you want to do solo, be yourself, have fun. I meet so many people out and have random conversations. I also chat with the bartenders too. It's all good, no one is paying that much attention. The more you do it, the more laid back and fun it is.
At Squingy7732 wrote,
So I've noticed a good bit of this too, especially the less manners introverted thing, LOL. Of course, it's not just the blacks, that's ridiculous. COVID happened around when I turned 19 to 20, and I was a car detailer, family owned. Given the nature of the job and sanitizing, I actually saw no shortages of work. The first half of that year was booming, in fact. But I remember seeing people happy to get work done, excited even. Slowly began to withdraw as the times went on. Now we get done and they don't even look at it being like, oh, wow, they're just kind of ready with the money. Of course, I don't need that. But over time, I realized kind of that it made the job a bit more worth it, fulfilling in a way. There is definitely a big disconnect in people now. If people don't have to talk to you, they won't. I understand the guy's viewpoint, though, as well. Because I, too, I am introverted, don't always want to talk to people. LOL.
At Driamilux Designs wrote,
I work at a museum in Illinois, dealing with all sorts of ages, backgrounds, etc. The guy who spoke on manners and just acknowledging other humans around you in the same space is 100% true. Our gift shop is quaint and small, so you have no choice but to see every person that walks through the opening. So naturally, being the respectful and personable person that I am, I greet folks as they come into the shop. And I swear 7 times out of 10, they don't say anything back, just smile awkwardly, greet me with their backs turned towards me, no eye contact at all, or have a genuine look of surprise on their face at the fact that I actually greeted them. COVID or no, when did common decency die off?
As Chevy Misty wrote,
COVID time was the best time ever for my family. We were in the Australian outback. There were 6 total cases, all isolated. My son was still going to school. We had no masks. My husband only worked every other week and was paid for the week off. Tiger King showed how horrible humanity was, but we were all laughing at it together. An Animal Crossing brought us all together. There was no quarantine where I was, and food delivery went from everyone got it to only the elderly, and so I was out more. And my daughter could still go to playgroup. Church was the only thing that changed by not meeting in person anymore. I know my experience was the complete and total opposite of like everyone else's COVID experience, but yeah, it was great for my family.
As Spindrifts wrote,
The whole idiotic experiment felt like being forced to drink the Kool-Aid at a Jim Jones cult. I was forced to undergo vaccines. I was forced to watch my bubbly teen daughter become depressed, doing Zoom classes day after day after day for way too long.
At Normie Nerdum wrote,
I'm so glad someone's talking about this. I noticed I had an easier time ignoring people when I had to wear that damn face diaper. It was so much easier to dehumanize people, and I hated that. Weak people still haven't let it go.
At Rebecca5367 wrote,
As someone who thrives in remote work due to prior injury and who is currently job searching, I gotta tell you that remote work is hard as hell to find. I don't find that it's nearly as prevalent as you think it is. Maybe jobs in general are just hard to come by. I've never in my life gone this far between interviews, but remote work postings are so much harder to find in the first place.
At Themakabe 8469 wrote,
People are rude and mean today, both old and young. It's like everyone thinks they are the only person alive. Social skills are at an all-time low, and people are just bitter and negative.
At Dowdy 82 wrote,
I got my life together during the COVID time. I was able to use that breather and work on my debt, got a house, also worked on my mental, and I worked on building my community.
At Welder Mom 30 wrote,
It's hard to make friends as an adult. So many people are antisocial. I approach people, but they might shut down or pretend to be interested, even going so far as to give you their number and barely ever respond. If you say you don't have social media, they think you're non-existent, even if the way you met them in person. The only way to know me is to search me on social media, instead of getting to know me in real life.
At Small Signals wrote,
I'm 2 minutes in, and so far I already think a lot of the problem already existed in the youngest generation. The trend towards an insular, atomized way of living was there a bit to begin with. At least for Gen Alpha, and the youngest of Gen Z, they were already primed for this to be the outcome of a pandemic.
At Riggers 4310 wrote,
Wife's at home chilling, taking care of the family. Seriously, I thought you knew better. Most women have to grind and carry the majority of the unpaid domestic labor. Not many households will survive on the wage of one earner. In the workplace, women have to work harder to get noticed.
At Alira Kimball 4537 wrote,
For me, COVID didn't affect me. I was working in fast food at the time, and I'm basically a hermit. I'd rather be at home than out. Customers that came through the drive-thru back during those times were very rude. I'd rather stay to myself because of the crap people did during those times.
At AVP 1703 wrote,
The best thing that came out of COVID was everyone waking up to the lies by the government. Independent media/podcasts have become the go-to for news coverage. Everything we learned growing up is now known to be a lie, vaccines being the biggest lie. Everything we learned growing up is now known to be a lie. So ready for daring. And now, we all went through hell during COVID. We were treated like animals. There's a lot of hurt that we need to heal from and make peace with. Especially those who couldn't bury their loved ones properly. We have to give all our pain to God. He will deal with all those who did us wrong.
Seek comfort in Him.
At SH 3570 wrote,
During COVID, I traveled to Mexico multiple times because they let USA people in. I started an eBay store because I was so trapped in my house. Not huge, but about 15K per year. Worrier, Irier, now pay, now year, now year, now year, now year. I love reselling. I would not have done it except for COVID pandemic. Ivermectin could have stopped all of this BS, but it is cheap, so nobody is making money. Currently, I am using ivermectin cream to treat my rosacea. It has only been 1 week, and my skin looks great. I am really hopeful that RFK can help change the medical malpractice that is happening in the USA.
At The Real Soft Luna wrote,
I was a sophomore when the lockdown happened, continued my online classes until graduation. I absolutely loved it. Why are you row? Why are you row? I absolutely loved it. I truly you're ged. Why are you ged? I absolutely you're ged. Know my how. I den sharing side. Know my how. I den sharing side. Why are you ged? Why are you ged? Why are you ged? Then my how. Then my how. Why are you ged? Why are you ged? Why are you ged? I den no bullying, no disrespect, no rude ass teachers whatsoever, just peace and quiet. Any main. And my grades have gotten much better too. The nine chalice. The nine chalice. Nine chalice.
At Carhart 6663 wrote,
I hated going to work and being barely able to breathe in ridiculous PPE mandates in the medical field. But I do appreciate that I was able to interact with people. I couldn't see their faces, but I socialized and saw the world wasn't ending. I got into the habit of walking every day all over the neighborhood too, and got fresh air each afternoon. I can't believe there were people who voluntarily locking themselves indoors for 2 years and only getting deliveries and no saying boo to anyone. No wonder they are the way they are today.
At Kyliaka 5122 wrote,
I graduated college in 2020 during COVID. The lockdown started the week of spring break. Noun day. I also didn't have a graduation ceremony. With the riots and everything that was going on, it really did seem like the world was gonna end. It took me almost a year before I could get a job that wasn't in food service.
Decido, the two wrote,
17-119. In my class a few weeks ago, I handed a student a Band-Aid and, and he looked at me, accepted it, and didn't say anything. His peer immediately jumped his butt and said, "She just gave you something. You aren't going to say thank you." Dick thing. A-I-O cone. A-I-O-A wrongly. Wrongly, you. Look at me wrongly, you. Wrongly, you. He looked at her, shrugged, and replied, "I don't really see the point in saying thank you. I mean, I wasn't rude." I thought that was an interesting thing to hear a kid say. I didn't comment because that really isn't my place, but I genuinely don't think I've heard that mentality like, ever feel, and I'll be your best choice, 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 and I'll be.
At Elena Jablonski wrote,
Senior 2020 here. It was nice being off from school, and I actually didn't have any finals that whole year since at first semester we had too many snow days leading up to Christmas break, we just didn't do finals. Then second semester obviously was during COVID. Only thing upsetting was I didn't have prom, my senior trip, my last band concert, and I didn't have my graduation till August where you could only invite 5 family member, and we didn't do our senior lockdown. And at that point I felt like there wasn't anything that could redeem what I missed out on. Though I didn't like school, those little fun moments, did mean a lot to me, so looking back, I am sad I didn't get to fully experience my senior year.
At Briffitech CII wrote,
I work in the public school system, and my current fifth graders were in pre-K and kindergarten during the pandemic. You can tell the lockdowns had a drastic impact on their learning, especially their handwriting.
At Take Gillespie 945 wrote,
The last manners that I have noticed is parents not caring anymore and just letting the kids be horrible. Maybe it's not COVID related, but it honestly wasn't this bad before 1826.
At Janet Taperl 332 wrote,
Also, I had a blast during lockdown. It was great. I lost 20 pounds. My stress levels shrank to almost nothing. Well, until I lost my job because COVID killed the contract.
At Carlos Suganin wrote,
My children say I don't know for everything, and it drives me crazy. I don't rest or let them go until they give me a more definite answer or opinion.
At Wildershoney 2439 wrote,
I hate how everyone forgot about PPL who couldn't hear masks prevent lip reading and plexiglass stopped sounds not germs. PPL who were in abusive relationships/families. PPL dying alone and acting like a policy should override humanity. PPL caring about masks more than the fraudulent PPP loans we all knew were happening from day one with $, ruining children's lives and taking away their structure. Doctors falling in line like this was Nazi Germany, and they had no way to fight the bullshit system for their patients. PPL who treated anyone that questioned that system was a conspiracy theorist as a way to dismiss them, because truth hurts. I hope they all get the karma they deserve.
At America Martinez 9350 wrote,
COVID ruined my social life. I was just starting college and meeting new people, and COVID came and everything shut down, and all the contacts I made in college all disappeared and forgot about me.
At Xander 1756 wrote,
Hey content creator, you do realize society is the term used to describe a large group of people, and that not everyone has submitted to and changed to comply to the ruling class's agenda. Thus society hasn't changed. Just many people have, while many others in my next of the woods in Tasmania AU not only haven't changed our lifestyles, we haven't followed orders or laws and injected ourselves with an untested and unapproved V, or have ever worn masks, or restricted ourselves from areas the governments have deemed off limits. No surprise to me though, as YT continues to fill up with content creators making unsubstantiated claims, spreading misinformation, disinformation, and intentionally or unintentionally promoting the ruling class's dystopian agenda.
At Xander 1756 wrote,
Hey content creator, you do realize society is the term used to describe a large group of people, and that not everyone has submitted to and changed to comply to the ruling class's agenda.
At Dark Rose 40 wrote,
My son was a senior, and it took away the anxiety of the prom and all the running around. We had a lot more family time. We got to know each other more to the point that now we choose to make time to be together.
At Amanda Delacoste 1661 wrote,
1630 no, it wasn't fun. Certain states locked down hard, especially those who had to weather it when it was winter. Even state parks were closed. You couldn't really shop, see people, be outside. Then you move on to those who lived alone. 400 to 700 feet and you. I'm not surprised depression skyrocketed. If you weren't in Zoom meetings, you didn't speak to anyone for days. You could lose track of time with remote work.
Evis Radio wrote,
I was blessed enough to be a senior in high school during 2020 and living in Texas. Lockdown really only lasted 2 months. I was able to party with friends before starting college, and manners never really left the suburban areas of Texas, so I didn't notice a change until I left Texas. It really seems like people in cities just got their brains rewired by a screen. The internet has only been an essential for the last 15 years, and I think we are now seeing the side effects.
At Johannaprisk 3224 wrote,
Dude, I've always felt a little guilty for this take because I know COVID was such a horrific time for so many people, but for me, I'd never felt more free. I've always been a stress case, and I never felt like I could match pace with the people around me. But then the world stopped. There was nothing else I had to do, so I had the energy to do everything I wanted to do. I rode my bike every day, called friends and family more, hiked, meditated, learned Japanese, planted a garden, learned new recipes. I did so much just because I could. I put my own limits on screen time and just felt so awake and joyful. It was a little bubble that I needed and look back on fondly.
At Bianca Morales 8700 wrote,
I was living my best life. I still worked as a teacher via Zoom, but we would get 1 hour breaks. I would walk around my neighborhood, work out, had to cook my own meals or for the family, watch new movies, slept well. It was one of the healthiest 1.5 years of my adult life.
At Keeperoth Chronicles wrote,
My eldest son was finishing middle school and getting ready for high school when COVID hit. It wrecked him. These are very important formative years when kids are learning to navigate friendships and asserting independence from their parents. My son was already a bit introverted, but not too severe. After COVID, he had severe social anxiety. It's been rough. My youngest started kindergarten during lockdown. That's a whole other set of social skills interrupted. Our kids will be feeling the effects for years to come.
At Rives wrote,
2509 shit. If I could go back and take that unemployment plus COVID pay, I would. I would've been making more at home than working 40 hours a week. I would focus more on content and streaming and doing that while working parent who sees 2 jobs is a bitch.
At Lady Indigo 3672 wrote,
I feel like the quarantine just brought to light the true issue of being reliant on social media and influencers. We were locked down, and the internet was the safest place to be with people. But social media is problematic for extended periods of time. You're so focused on your image and the representation of others. It's mentally draining. It forced us to focus on negative world issues regardless if they were real or fake. People interacted with it, so the algorithm pushed it. People who follow influencers and base their values around their idols are problematic too. And we wonder why children can't think for themselves. It's just sad. Being in lockdown made this issue so much worse.
At Snugglebug 2245 wrote,
See, with me, it was hell. I was homeschooled my whole life. I finally got outside the house classes on and that COVID came along to take away my first years of high school. My only friend at the time, she just stopped talking to me, and my church. I had to BEG to find another physical place to go to.
At Christopher Kenyon 7112 wrote,
I've never been one to want to be around crowds of people, but I think the pandemic made people tune out other people even more. The government panicked people so much that I had a lady rip into me and my wife for not walking down an aisle in a store even though we were both masked and were nowhere near her. It made people believe that they can never take the mask off. I believe the pandemic gave the government the excuse to see how far they could go as to how they could control people out of fear. People need to remember that Joe Biden tried to use OSHA to enforce mandatory vaccinations for employment.
At IC Dead PPLS Taxes wrote,
Okay, qualifier. I am not aiming to discount or dismiss anyone's experience. Yes, some things really are different in the world after COVID. But some of what I am hearing described in this video, especially for the young 20-somethings, that's just normal, run-of-the-mill, figuring out who you are and where you fit in society. It's like second puberty, but now you have to figure out how to get along or socialize with the wider world, instead of just your cohort group. You are out of college or high school, seeking out jobs and living situations and moving to new places, and now you need to make new friends. And those things really have not changed since pre-COVID. Again, some things have changed, including some of how we interact with other people. But these are things that every generation has had to go through.
A time traveler 9809 wrote,
For me, life never really changed IMO. Us people in the construction field went to work as usual, we just had to deal with the absolute BS mask rules.
At Felicia Lynn 2588 wrote,
Amira friend, great video. I'm old enough to be your mom, so that being said, I loved the first video with the girl saying compliment PPL. I do it all the time. I even told a store clerk he was cute. Good advice on that one. Also, good on the frozen time idea. Yeah.
At 69 Tage Predator wrote,
I was 24-25 during the height of 2020 COVID. I worked as a BMET, basically I fixed hospital equipment, with a specialty in ventilators and dialysis since 2014. So I was young with a modest amount of experience by the time the pandemic kicked in. I was considered one of those essential workers that had to be on site. Our March and April pandemic time in my particular part of Texas was extremely uneventful. The hospital I worked at poured in a lot of money to an offsite of theirs to separate COVID patients from the regular hospital patients. It was still outfitted with the proper equipment and staff. The only feeling I can describe it being like was the movie Jarhead, where the soldiers are on base, going through the monotony of day-to-day boredom in the desert, waiting for something to happen. My personal time in that month was actually enjoyable. I got to really focus on some hobbies outside of work and was able to turn off my brain from work. I'm naturally an introvert, so I didn't mind staying at home after work. Fast forward to the end of May-July, and it was the complete opposite. Our offsite, that held maybe 25 patients, quickly ballooned into acquiring more buildings to house hundreds of patients. The original idea was to have some for severe cases, and others as needing hospitalization but considered survivable. It didn't turn out that way. I was the youngest guy on the team and had no kids, so I volunteered to be the designated COVID guy. The buildings were ventilator farms, so many people died daily. Refrigerator trucks were full of bodies since the funeral homes were full, and filled body bags overflowed in my room where I worked on equipment that I needed to work on. I have so many memories of those times, but the one that stuck out to me was seeing a body bag with a prosthetic leg laying on top. It belonged to a guy that I was talking to earlier that morning. Cell phones were constantly ringing from those body bags as worked on a ventilator. The freakiest thing about all of this was leaving my shift. It was a normal 8 to 5 job with on-call, but we were pushing 12 to 14 hours a day during this time. I just remember how quiet the streets were, and how normal but freaked out people were acting working from home. I remember feeling a lot of anger for people making TikToks about being stressed out working from home. I would have loved to have that. Ultimately, the military took over the COVID stuff in the hospitals, but they didn't have any BMETs. So I still worked in that environment until October, and to a lesser extent at another hospital for a year thereafter. I just turned 31 this month, and I look back at it like, did all of that really happen? The effects of those times still linger, and it comes up from time to time. When I hear certain ringtones, it immediately takes me back. When I hear certain alarms on medical equipment, it immediately takes me back. The night frights and nightmares still happen from time to time, but my now girlfriend has learned how to calm me down when it happens. Oftentimes, I don't even know that I'm having them, but she says I'll yell something about it in my sleep. I don't think anyone with a living memory of COVID came out unscathed.
At Lobelee 1873 wrote,
COVID showed me how quickly people, And society as a whole will turn on close friends and family when they are feeling scared and those people are expressing a contrary opinion. It all felt rather dystopian.
At Mama Crucia wrote,
I liked the lockdown time because I had a 9th and 5th grader and my husband was in the army. We were allowed more time to be together for a few months. We ordered food, walked miles and miles, and just had a good time together. The army life, you don't get time like that very often.
At Richard Slifer 1052 wrote,
I enjoyed COVID for the opportunity it afforded me to grow through the imposed solitude I may not have chosen otherwise. I learned to enjoy my own company and less longing for that of others. Come to think of it, of all of my pre-COVID friends, only 2 remain.
At Olivia Vander 1882 wrote,
My general area didn't really do COVID. The bars were normal. My kids' school was normal. They didn't close down or mask. Most restaurants and bars stayed normal too, so I haven't noticed much of a change.
A Fox Bat in a Hat wrote,
I have had to literally put elbows up and push people out of the way, charging at me through galleries of my workplace and museum. No personal bubbles anymore. No sense of polite distances from strangers. It's really weird.
At Travis_7T7 wrote,
2:30 TikTok has to be ruining so many relationships. My wife won't fucking get off her phone, won't get off TikTok, and stop taking photos and looking for those little boosts of dopamine.
At Anthony1_C7J wrote,
Pre-COVID itself, America was so lonely, depressing, and isolated for someone like me, who came from the East where we live in communities and almost never felt lonely or depressed.
At Sayaligia wrote,
I work at a Sonic, so I had the luxury of being able to work throughout COVID and get the stimulus checks, but I really hated every minute of it. Being forced to mask up in the entitlement of others, people refused to listen to reason. I definitely loathed that period of time, even though I was fortunate.
Delia Nix wrote,
I'm British and have been teaching in the UK for over 15 years. There is a lot of conversation about how the pandemic has set back children, but I reminded a colleague last week about how year on year in 2016, 17, 18, etc., we would comment on how cohorts were changing in terms of attention span, behavior, life skills, etc. The decline was slow but real. The pandemic just sped it up.
At SUA Happy Day wrote,
It seems to me that COVID has had little effect on the process of communication between people in Russia. He didn't affect my life at all. I worked remotely before COVID, and I work remotely after him. Nothing has changed for me. We also like to walk in Russia. That's what we really missed during the COVID era, and when it was over, we just all went out.
At Hector HM wrote,
No. I don't like people. I don't have the mood or energy to interact with people. I'd rather stay home. Nothing out there is bringing me joy anyway.
At Alexander Chirila 87 wrote,
This is so true. I feel like I lost 4 years and not 2. And also it changed my life completely. I was early 30s when COVID started, and at that point I had built a good social life. I had plans for my business. My personal life was not that good, but overall I was doing okay. Like for the first time it felt I had things figured out. And then COVID hit, and everything went to shits. I wanted to do some extra traveling before settling down, which I didn't get to do. And now I am settled down, but I still feel like I'm missing some life marks.
Kira Spookton wrote,
Lol. It didn't take a pandemic to make me socially anxious.
I'm in my 40s and have always had the trifecta of shyness, introvertedness, and generalized anxiety. I do everything on my own.
At JRT0301 wrote,
Last year I went to Vegas for a concert all by myself. First time flying and first time leaving my time zone. It was a pretty spontaneous thing, only planned it about a month in advance, but one of the best experiences of my life. I met so many amazing people, had awesome conversations, and overall, a great time. It made me realize I actually love traveling alone. And it's really not as scary as you'd think. What's funny is, every time I told someone I was going to Vegas, the first question they would ask is who I was going with. Swear every person. And some of them said, I was kinda crazy when I said nobody. But that just shows that people don't generally think about spending quality time with themselves. It's the best thing you can do for your mental health.
At JRT0301 wrote,
Last year, I went to Vegas for a concert all by myself. First time flying and first time leaving my time zone. It was a pretty spontaneous thing. Only planned it about a month in advance, but one of the best experiences of my life. I met so many amazing people, had awesome conversations, and overall a great time.
What's funny is, every time I told someone I was going to Vegas, the first question they would ask is who I was going with.
I swear every person. And some of them said I was kinda crazy when I said nobody. But that just shows that people don't generally think about spending quality time with themselves. Again, best time, sikti tayo pagawudake na, sikti tayo na, sikti tayo pagawudake na.
Prince of Matcha wrote,
I used to just parrot leftist talking points my whole life. I used to just parrot leftist talking points my whole life. I used to just parrot leftist talking points my whole life. COVID basically showed me that my party that championed my body my choice are liars. My body, the government's choice. Mimi and centuries. Mimi and centuries. Then I'll be your best choice. Mimi and centuries.
At Teddy337, S4V wrote,
COVID brought the worst out of people. It amplified people's identity in the sense that echo chambers got deeper due to the lack of interaction with others, and the fear of being infected. Extreme got more extreme, and selfishness, in the form of self-preservation, got way extreme. 2115, it's the Roblox, Minecraft generation of mimicking the extreme personas on YouTube.
At Ashbuff wrote,
100%, that's exactly what happened with my hubby and I. He was essential. I wasn't. He was grinding and worked his was up at work. I got to work on my mental shit and live free right before he got me pregnant and kept me at home with these babies. Lol. It was honestly perfect on all fronts.
At Ashbuff wrote,
I remember complaining to my friend a few months prior about how in 23 years I'd never caught a break in any way. Then COVID hit and I got let go because I was managing a hotel bistro shut down. I got to live my life, building puzzles, and finally just letting myself relax. I was a straight A student through school and immediately worked into management roles and just worked every damn day after high school. So I finally got to relax for a year. And I made And then we started our family and I went on relaxing for about 16 more years, lol. So COVID was perfect for me, but that is so conditional based on where you were in life. I had just found my soulmate and gotten an apartment with him. It was the perfect test for us of if we were what we thought and could get through something like this. Now we're married with 2 kids and very happy. So COVID was great for me, but I think it broke a lot of people because they weren't in a good place to be stuck. That matters more than anything.
Cozy Coding Izzy wrote,
I generally agree with most of your takes and opinions, but I had to say something with the locking down one. I appreciate and recognize you said multiple times that anyone can do it and anyone is able to. However, I do think this section deserved a reshoot or something, as you start out by very much coming across as if it's only men that get to have the opportunity to lock in the workplace, while women are forced to stay home and have kids, and she had a rare experience to try it. My stepmom raised my brother, her biological son, with my dad while being a lawyer for the federal government and retired just last year. I graduated just a few weeks ago with a bachelor's in computer science and 3 certificates under my belt. My grandmother was one of the first women to start going to college when they were allowed to, and raised 3 kids on her own while teaching and locking in to ensure they all had good lives. Just because a woman has a kid doesn't mean she loses the ability to lock in, nor does it relegate her to the home by default, and to think it does is a narrow-minded perspective. I encourage you to remember, with your ever-growing platform, that old stereotypes like women being exclusively baby-rearing homemakers can be hurtful to groups that you may not have insight into. Much love, and I do genuinely love and enjoy your videos. I just felt the need to leave this bit here as it bothered me.
Heather OT4 Faye wrote,
Amir have a theory about the sudden emergence of COVID. Fauci knew in 2017 that Trump would face a pandemic before he left office. I also know that SS is becoming insolvent, and whoever solves the issue is a hero. Wait, what? I'm saying that it was the Democratic Party politicians who unleashed COVID on the world, and if the virus would not have mutated, it had been engineered to take out elderly people, people who were immunocompromised and probably were receiving SS disability benefits. If it didn't mutate, it was almost genius to clear the SS roster. I have a theory on how it was released also, and it adds credibility to my theories. In September of 2019, the World Military Games were held. Get this. In Wuhan, China, several U.S. members reported coming home sick. The Chinese in the beginning accused U.S. military personnel of bringing the virus there. It would require military personnel to handle the mission/virus. It was genius that it was Wuhan where the virus was engineered for gain of function by US NIH, whose head was Fauci. People need to think about this.
At Infamous Shark wrote,
Yes, the complimenting. My kids are like, why do you make friends everywhere? Because I compliment everyone when I can. I strike up conversations when I can. Ask the questions and let people talk.
At Sarah's 5488 wrote,
I wonder if the rise in people raising alarm bells and getting invested in overseas news at sea is due in part to people being woken up to caring about things and thinking for themselves rather than being dulled to what they see in the MSM.
At Unseen One Sland wrote,
I've been feeling like this a lot more these past couple of years, especially losing my dad a couple years after COVID year. Things feel unreal, like I'm in a different world. Things just feel strange and not normal. These past few years feel like we flew into this different dimension.
At Jordan Fischler 00 wrote,
Lockdown was miserable for me. I was an engineering major. People were learning new skills, enjoying spring break being longer, playing tons of games, and doing other shit. I was stuck doing work 20 hours a day, being miserable for classes, and then the summer was relegated to internships I enjoyed.
but it left me drained when at home because of the commute on top of work.
At YesFan1215 wrote,
I hate it. Post-COVID, with all the folks who ran away from their lockdown blue states fled down here to Florida in droves. Now it's a mother trucker living down here. Land is being raped at a breakneck pace to deal with the growth. Paradise is no more, plus no more off-season down here anymore either.
At Victoria Freeman 3984 wrote,
Now, school-aged kids cannot form their own thoughts. It's really disturbing. They can't read, and if they can read, they don't retain or comprehend any of it. One of my students can ask me a question, and I'll read them the 2 sentences that the answer comes from, and they'll just stare at me. Then they'll say they don't get it, I don't understand. And once that answer hits paper, that knowledge is puffed out of their little heads. It's really bad, and it's really scary.
At its Mahelo 555, M7B wrote,
I grew a very deep distrust and disgust for people, even friends and family. COVID got me to move though and start a fresh life in 2021, and that was positive. I will never forgive the people who perpetuated this mass brainwashing of society.